I'm Amaya 32, and I built a multi-million-dollar skincare empire from nothing, only to watch my mother-in-law Eleanor try to destroy it all. The special fertility tea she insisted on brewing me each morning, it was slowly poisoning me, designed to keep me childless. When I survived and confronted her, she and my husband Ryan tried to steal my company while I was fighting for my life in the hospital. What they didn't count on was my determination to fight back. Before I share how my mother-in-law nearly destroyed my life and business, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and hit that subscribe button to join our community of survivors who refuse to be silenced. Growing up in a middle-class neighborhood on Chicago's South Side shaped me in ways I'm still discovering. My parents, both high school teachers, raised me to believe that education and hard work could overcome any obstacle. Our modest 3-bedroom home wasn't fancy, but it was filled with books, laughter, and the constant encouragement to chase my dreams. Amaya, my father would say, with that brain of yours, you could run the world someday. His unwavering belief in me became my internal compass, especially after I lost them both. I was 22, halfway through my undergraduate business degree at Northwestern when the call came. A rainy night, a slick road, a truck driver who'd fallen asleep at the wheel. My parents were gone in an instant, leaving me alone to navigate not just my grief, but the sudden shocking transition to complete independence. The next few years blur together in my memory, working 3 part-time jobs while finishing my degree, crying in bathroom stalls, between classes, selling most of my parents' possessions to pay off their modest debts. Their life insurance barely covered the funeral expenses and the remainder of my undergraduate tuition. Graduate school seemed impossible, but that voice, my father's voice, kept pushing me forward. I applied for every scholarship available, wrote essays until my fingers cramped, and eventually secured enough financial aid to pursue my MBA with only manageable student loan debt. I lived on ramen and determination, often sleeping just 4 hours a night, as I balanced studies with the various jobs that kept me afloat. The idea for Pure Glow came during my final year of business school. For a class project, I developed a business plan for an organic skincare line that combined my grandmother's natural remedies with modern cosmetic science. My professor pulled me aside after my presentation. "This isn't just a class project, Amaya," she said. "This could be your future." With $5,000 from my savings and a small business loan, I launched Pure Glow from my tiny studio apartment at 25. Those early days were brutal. Mixing products in my kitchen, hand-labeling bottles until 3 a.m., driving across the city to personally deliver orders, all while working as a barista to pay my rent. The first year, I made exactly $8,722 in profit. Hardly enough to justify the 80-hour weeks. But something was happening. Customers were coming back. Not just coming back, but telling their friends. My phone started ringing with boutiques wanting to stock my face serums. A popular beauty blogger featured my rose hip recovery oil, and overnight my website crashed from the traffic. By year 3, I had moved operations to a small warehouse space, hired two employees, and expanded the product line to 15 different items. By year 5, Pure Glow had been featured in major beauty magazines, and I was negotiating with national retailers. The company that had started in my kitchen was now generating 7-figure revenues. When I turned 29, I signed the lease on Pure Glow's first proper headquarters, a beautiful converted industrial space in Chicago's West Loop. We had 32 employees distribution in over 300 stores nationwide and a growing international presence. The little girl from the South Side who'd lost everything had built something substantial. I had created my own security, my own future. That's when I met Ryan Campbell. He approached me after my keynote speech at a business conference in New York. Tall with dark wavy hair and the kind of smile that made my professional composure slip just a little, Ryan introduced himself as the CEO of a sustainable packaging company. "Your speech about ethical business practices was inspiring," he said, those warm brown eyes never leaving mine. "I'd love to discuss potential synergies between our companies over dinner." Dinner turned into drinks, which turned into a midnight walk through Central Park, which turned into breakfast the next morning. Ryan was everything I'd been too busy to realize I was missing. Intelligent, ambitious, but ethical, funny, in a dry way that caught me off guard. He listened when I talked about Pure Glow with an intensity that made me feel truly seen. Our long-distance relationship progressed through daily video calls, weekend visits, and endless text messages. After 3 months, Ryan surprised me by announcing he was relocating his company's headquarters to Chicago. For proximity to Midwest manufacturing, he claimed, but the way he kissed me suggested other motivations. 6 months after we met, Ryan took me to dinner at the restaurant, where we'd had our first Chicago date. As dessert arrived, he dropped to one knee and opened a velvet box containing a vintage emerald ring. "Amaya, you're the most remarkable woman I've ever known," he said, voice steady, but eyes suspiciously bright. "I want to build a life with you, a family, everything. Will you marry me?" The word family caught in my chest. Since losing my parents, I'd buried myself in building Pure Glow, rarely allowing myself to think about the family I'd lost, or the one I might someday create. Ryan's proposal cracked something open inside me, a longing for connection, for people who would be mine by choice and by blood. "Yes," I whispered, then louder, "yes." We married a year later in a beautiful ceremony at the Chicago Botanic Garden. That's when I first met Eleanor Campbell in person, though we'd spoken on video calls a few times before. Ryan's mother was striking, tall and slim, with perfectly highlighted blonde hair, expertly applied makeup, and the kind of polished appearance that spoke of significant wealth maintained through rigorous self-discipline. "Darling Amaya," she said, embracing me with the perfect pressure to avoid wrinkling either of our dresses. "Ryan has chosen so well. I'm simply delighted to finally have a daughter." Her approval meant more to me than I wanted to admit. Having lost my own mother, the prospect of a maternal figure in my life again held a certain appeal even at 30. Eleanor seemed genuinely interested in me asking thoughtful questions about Pure Glow and complimenting my business acumen. "We must have you over to the house for a proper family dinner soon," she insisted. "Ryan tells me you're quite the entrepreneur. Perhaps I could offer some advice from my years on charity boards. I have quite the network in Chicago." After the honeymoon, 2 blissful weeks in Bali, Ryan and I purchased a beautiful brownstone in Lincoln Park, just 15 minutes from Eleanor's Gold Coast penthouse. The proximity seemed perfect for building the family relationships I'd been missing for so long. As Pure Glow continued to expand, I found myself needing additional marketing expertise to compete with larger brands. When Eleanor mentioned her experience chairing fundraising campaigns for the Art Institute and other major cultural institutions, bringing her on as a consulting marketing advisor seemed like the perfect solution. "I'm so touched you value my input, darling," she said when I made the offer. "Nothing would make me happier than helping my new daughter succeed." I remembered those words later, turning them over and over, searching for the warning signs I should have seen. But at the time, all I felt was gratitude and hope for my thriving business, my loving husband, and the family we planned to build together. Ryan and I agreed to start trying for a baby right away. "I've always imagined at least 3 children," he told me one night, as we lay in bed, his hand gently resting on my stomach. "A whole house filled with little Campbells. Maybe even a Campbell Cruise dynasty." I smiled in the darkness, allowing myself to imagine it. A little girl with Ryan's eyes and my curly hair, a boy with my determination and Ryan's easy charm. After years of being alone, the prospect of creating my own family felt like finding an oasis after crossing a desert. I didn't realize then that Eleanor had very different plans for the Campbell family line, or that she'd go to unthinkable lengths to ensure her vision, not mine, would determine our future. The first sign something was wrong came about 3 months after our wedding. I was in the kitchen preparing breakfast when Eleanor let herself in using the key we'd given her for emergencies. It was 7:30 on a Tuesday morning. "Oh," I startled, nearly dropping my coffee mug. "Eleanor, I didn't know you were coming over. Just thought I'd pop by to check on you 2 lovebirds," she said, setting her designer handbag on our counter and examining the breakfast I'd prepared. Avocado toast and fruit for myself, a heartier plate with eggs and bacon for Ryan. "Is that all Ryan's having?" He usually enjoys a proper breakfast. Victoria used to make the most divine eggs Benedict for him every Sunday. There it was, the first mention of Victoria Ryan's ex-girlfriend. It wouldn't be the last. "Ryan seems happy with our breakfast routine," I said, keeping my tone light, "but I'm always open to suggestions." Eleanor smiled, but the warmth didn't reach her eyes. "Of course, dear. Everyone has their own way. Speaking of which, I brought something for you." She produced an elegant canister of loose-leaf tea from her bag. "My special fertility blend," she explained. "All the Campbell women drink it when they're trying to conceive. 3 generations of Campbell babies can't be wrong. I'll prepare you a cup this morning and show you exactly how to brew it." The tea smelled pleasant enough, earthy with hints of mint and something floral. Eleanor measured the leaves carefully, explaining that the proportions were crucial for maximum effectiveness. She watched as I drank it, her eyes never leaving the cup until I'd drained the last drop. Wonderful, she said with satisfaction. I'll leave the canister. Drink it every morning and we'll have a pregnancy announcement by Christmas, I'm sure of it. That became our new routine. Eleanor would drop by most mornings, insisting on preparing the special tea herself. On days she couldn't come, she would call or text to remind me to drink it, often checking later to confirm I had. Around the same time, Eleanor began offering more pointed advice about Pure Glow. What had started as occasional marketing suggestions evolved into critiques of our product formulations, packaging decisions, and my leadership style. Darling, you really should reconsider the glass packaging, she said during one meeting at the Pure Glow offices. It's significantly increasing your production costs. Our customers value sustainability, I explained. Our market research shows they're willing to pay a premium for products that align with their environmental values. Eleanor waved this away. Market research only tells you what people say they want, not what they'll actually buy. Trust me, I've been a consumer of luxury products longer than you've been alive. In the coming weeks, Eleanor's presence at the office increased. She began attending staff meetings uninvited, offering her opinions freely, and often contradicting my directives after I'd left the room. I began hearing from my assistant Michael that Eleanor was having private lunches with various team members. She's just trying to get to know everyone, Ryan said when I expressed concern. Mom's lonely since Dad died. The company gives her a sense of purpose. Perhaps I might have been more firm in establishing boundaries at work if I hadn't been so distracted by what was happening to my body. About 2 months after starting Eleanor's tea, I began experiencing troubling symptoms. Waves of nausea that weren't limited to mornings' unusual fatigue and increasingly painful periods. At first I was hopeful these were early pregnancy signs, but month after month the pregnancy tests remained negative while my symptoms intensified. After 6 months of trying to conceive without success, we consulted a fertility specialist. Dr. Lin was thorough, ordering comprehensive blood work and ultrasounds. When the results came back, her expression was troubled. Amaya, I'm seeing some concerning inflammation in your reproductive system, she explained, showing me the ultrasound images. Your hormone levels are also irregular in a way that's consistent with certain inflammatory responses. Have you been exposed to any unusual substances or medications recently? No, I said automatically, then hesitated. Well, I've been drinking a special tea my mother-in-law makes. It's supposed to help with fertility. Do you know what's in it? Herbs, I think. She says it's a family recipe. Dr. Lin made a note. Would you be able to bring in a sample? I'd like to have it analysed. When I mentioned this request to Ryan, he seemed oddly defensive. Mum would be hurt if she knew you were questioning her fertility tea, he said. The Campbell women have used it for generations. My grandmother had 5 children, and Mum would have had more if complications from my birth hadn't required a hysterectomy. It's just a precaution, but I assured him. Dr. Lin is being thorough. But I didn't bring in the tea. Something about Ryan's reaction made me hesitate, and in that hesitation, I missed a crucial opportunity to discover the truth sooner. As the months passed, my health continued to deteriorate. I experienced breakthrough bleeding between periods, increasing abdominal pain and fatigue, so severe I sometimes needed to nap in my office between meetings. My normally clear skin developed a dull greyish undertone, and my hair began falling out in alarming amounts. Meanwhile, Eleanor's criticism of me grew more pointed and public. At a family dinner with Ryan's cousins, she commented loudly on my appearance. Amaya, darling, you really must do something about those circles under your eyes. You're looking positively haggard. Is running that little company of yours proving too stressful? When Ryan's cousin Angela announced her pregnancy at the same dinner, Eleanor's response cut deeply. Wonderful news, the Campbell family continuing through the female line as well. Angela, you must share your secret with Amaya. Poor thing has been trying for almost a year now with no success. The public revelation of our private struggle left me fighting tears throughout the remainder of the meal. Later, when I expressed to Ryan how hurtful his mother's comment had been, he minimized my concerns. Mom's just worried about you, about us. She wants grandchildren so badly. You're being oversensitive because of the fertility hormones. I wasn't taking fertility hormones yet, a fact my husband should have known, but his dismissal hurt more than I wanted to admit. At work, Eleanor's influence continued to expand. She'd somehow convinced Ryan to attend board meetings as my support, though he had no official role in the company. During these meetings, Eleanor would often interject with statements like, "What Amaya means to say is," or, "Perhaps a more viable approach would be." Several times I discovered changes had been made to marketing materials or supplier contracts after I'd approved final versions. When I investigated, the trail inevitably led back to Eleanor, who always had a plausible explanation about improving my decisions. "I assumed you'd want the benefit of my experience," she would say with a wounded expression when confronted. "I'm only trying to help, dear." Ryan consistently took his mother's side in these disputes. "Mom's connections have opened doors for pure glow. Why are you being so territorial? It's not an attractive quality in a wife or a business leader." The word wife always came before business leader in these conversations, a subtle reminder of what Ryan considered my primary role. By our first wedding anniversary, I was physically ill, increasingly isolated at work and at home, and beginning to doubt my own judgment. The vibrant, confident woman who had built a multi-million-dollar company from nothing had been reduced to a shadow, second-guessing her every decision. That's when Jade came back into my life, unwittingly setting in motion the events that would eventually save it. Jade Martinez had been my roommate in college before she left to study herbal medicine in Arizona. We'd stayed in loose contact over the years, occasionally exchanging birthday messages on social media. When she posted that she was coming to Chicago for an herbal medicine conference, I immediately invited her to stay with us. "Are you sure your mother-in-law won't mind?" she texted back, referencing the numerous photos of Eleanor I'd appeared in on my social accounts. "She seems very involved in your life." The observation stung with its accuracy. "It's my house too," I replied, feeling a small spark of my old self flare up. Ryan was surprisingly agreeable to having Jade stay. In retrospect, I think he was relieved to have someone else looking after me, as my health had declined to the point where I was missing days of work and had lost 15 pounds from my already slim frame. Jade arrived on a Tuesday, her familiar laugh and warm hug like a connection to a simpler time. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Amaya, you look..." she started, then clearly thought better of finishing the sentence. "Awful," I supplied with a weak smile. "I know, I've been having health issues." "What kind of health issues?" Jade asked, her training as an herbalist evident in the clinical way she assessed me. I explained about the fatigue, the reproductive inflammation, the digestive problems, and the unsuccessful attempts to get pregnant. As I spoke, Eleanor arrived for her daily visit, letting herself in without knocking as usual. "Amaya, darling, I've brought your special tea," she called, then stopped short when she saw Jade. "Oh, I didn't realize you had company." I made the introductions, watching as Eleanor's perfectly made-up face arranged itself into a welcoming smile that never quite reached her eyes. "An herbalist." "How fascinating," Eleanor said to Jade. "Though I prefer traditional medicine myself. More scientific rigor, you understand." "Actually, many conventional pharmaceuticals originated from herbal remedies," Jade replied pleasantly. "The scientific rigor comes from understanding the chemical properties of plants, which is exactly what I study." Eleanor's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Well, I should prepare Amaya's fertility tea before I go. It's quite particular in its preparation." Jade watched with professional interest as Eleanor measured the dried herbs into a special infuser, adding the precise amount of water and timing the steep with her phone. "What's in the blend?" Jade asked casually. "I'm always interested in traditional fertility remedies," Eleanor laughed lightly. "Oh, it's a family secret passed down through Campbell women for generations. I couldn't possibly share it." "But Amaya is a Campbell woman now," Jade pointed out. Eleanor's hand stilled momentarily before she resumed stirring. "Of course she is. But some traditions wait until there's a successful pregnancy. For luck, you understand." She handed me the tea with a pointed look. "Drink it all, dear. It's most effective when consumed immediately." I dutifully drank the tea as Eleanor watched, her eyes tracking the cup as I drained it completely, as she did every morning. After she left, Jade's expression was troubled. "How long have you been drinking that tea?" she asked. "Almost a year now," I replied. "Every single day." "And your symptoms started..." "A couple months after the wedding, around when I started the tea." As I said it aloud, a connection I should have made long ago finally clicked into place. "Jade, you don't think..." "I don't want to alarm you," she said carefully, "but I'd like to analyze that tea if you wouldn't mind. Something doesn't feel right about Eleanor's secrecy or the way she watches you drink it." That night, after Ryan had gone to sleep, Jade and I crept downstairs. I opened the special canister Eleanor had left, which she refilled weekly, and Jade took several samples, carefully sealing them in sterile bags she had brought from the conference. "I know someone at the university research lab who can analyze these discreetly," she said. "I'll take them tomorrow." The next morning, Eleanor arrived as usual to prepare my tea. "I can make it myself," I offered. "You've shown me so many times." "Nonsense," she replied briskly. "It's my pleasure. Besides, the proportions must be exact. We wouldn't want to waste these precious herbs." I felt Jade watching from the doorway as Eleanor prepared the tea with her usual precision, adding what looked like an extra pinch of something from a small vial she kept in her purse when she thought I wasn't looking. After drinking the tea under Eleanor's watchful eye, I excused myself to the bathroom, where I immediately became violently ill. This had been happening with increasing frequency, another symptom I had attributed to stress or possible early pregnancy despite the negative tests. Jade left for the lab with her samples promising to call as soon as she had results. Eleanor remained at the house unusually attentive, suggesting she should stay until I felt better. "Ryan mentioned you've been missing work," she said, her voice heavy with concern that didn't match the gleam in her eyes. "Perhaps it's time to consider stepping back from Pure Glow temporarily. Your health should be the priority right now." "I'm fine," I insisted weakly from the couch where I'd collapsed. "Just a stomach bug." "Of course, dear. But if it persists, Ryan and I have been discussing contingency plans for the company. You needn't worry yourself about business right now." The casual mention that my husband and mother-in-law had been making contingency plans for my company without involving me might have enraged me if I hadn't been so physically depleted. As it was, I could barely keep my eyes open as Eleanor moved around my house with proprietary familiarity, straightening items and rearranging furniture to her preference. I must have dozed off because I woke to the sound of Jade's return and her tense conversation with Eleanor. "Amaya needs rest," Eleanor was saying firmly. "Whatever conference gossip you've brought back can wait." "I think Amaya would want to hear what I've learned," Jade replied, her normally friendly voice uncharacteristically hard. I struggled to sit up. "It's okay, Eleanor. I want to talk to Jade." Eleanor hesitated, clearly reluctant to leave us alone. "Well, if you're sure. I should check on those marketing materials for Pure Glow anyway. Ryan asked me to review the new campaign before it goes to the printer. That was news to me. I hadn't approved any new campaign for printing." After Eleanor finally left, Jade sat beside me, her expression grave. "Amaya, I got a preliminary analysis of the tea," she said, taking my hand. "It's not good. The blend contains several herbs known to cause reproductive inflammation and liver stress when consumed in large quantities over time." "What?" I struggled to process her words, my foggy brain working too slowly. "There's blue cohosh, which can cause uterine inflammation and is contraindicated for women trying to conceive. There's pennyroyal, which in large doses can cause liver damage and is historically used as an abortifacient. And there's tansy, another herb traditionally used to induce miscarriage." That can't be right," I whispered, though a terrible suspicion was forming. "Eleanor would never—" "There's more," Jade said grimly. "The lab found trace amounts of Sylvian root extract, which isn't even a traditional medicinal herb. It's primarily studied for its potential to cause long-term infertility in certain mammals. It's not something you'd find in any standard herbal reference. Someone would have to specifically seek it out." The room seemed to spin around me as the implications of Jade's words sank in. For nearly a year, I had been drinking a toxic blend specifically designed to prevent pregnancy and damage my reproductive system, prepared daily by my mother-in-law, consumed under her watchful eye. "We need to get you to a doctor," Jade said urgently, "and you need to stop drinking that tea immediately." "I need proof," I said, a cold clarity cutting through my mental fog. "I need to catch her in the act." The next morning, before Eleanor's usual arrival time, Jade helped me set up a small camera concealed in the kitchen bookshelf, angled to capture the counter where Eleanor always prepared the tea. We barely finished hiding the camera when Eleanor let herself in, calling out cheerfully, "Good morning, family." She frowned slightly, seeing Jade already at the breakfast table, but quickly composed her features. "Amaya, you're looking a bit better today," she observed. "Shall I prepare your tea?" "Please," I said, forcing a smile. "I do feel like it's helping." I watched with new awareness as Eleanor measured the herbs, her back partially to me as she worked. When she thought I was distracted by a question Jade asked, she quickly removed the small vial from her purse and added a pinch of its contents to the infuser. The tea she handed me looked the same as it had for months. Innocuous, even pleasant, with its floating bits of dried mint leaf visible on top. I pretended to drink it, secretly emptying it into a potted plant when Eleanor was momentarily distracted by her phone. After she left, promising to return the next day, I retrieved the camera and Jade and I watched the footage. There it was. Clear evidence of Eleanor adulterating my tea with an unmarked substance from a hidden vial. "What are you going to do?" Jade asked quietly. "I'm going to confront her," I said, surprising myself with the steadiness of my voice. "But first, I need to understand why, and I need to know if Ryan is involved." That afternoon, while Ryan was at work, I went to see Eleanor at her penthouse. She seemed surprised when her doorman called up to announce me, but welcomed me in with her usual polished hospitality. "Amaya, darling, what a lovely surprise." "Tea?" The word sent a chill through me. "No, thank you. I need to ask you something, Eleanor." "Of course, dear. Anything." I took out my phone and played the video of her adding the powder to my tea that morning. Her face remained impressively composed, but a slight whitening around her lips betrayed her shock. "What exactly have you been putting in my tea, Eleanor? And why?" For a moment, she maintained the facade, laughing lightly. "Darling, that's just a special blend of fertility enhancers. Nothing sinister." "Stop lying, though," I said quietly. "I've had the tea analysed. Blue cohosh, pennyroyal, tansy, Sylvian root extract, all known to cause reproductive inflammation and prevent pregnancy, some potentially causing permanent damage." The mask slipped, then her carefully arranged features hardening into something cold and calculating. She didn't bother denying it further. "Ryan needs a wife who will give him children," she said, her voice suddenly devoid of its usual warmth. "His bloodline is too important to end with you." The casual cruelty of her statement stole my breath. "You've been poisoning me to make me infertile." "Poisoning is such a dramatic word," she replied, smoothing an invisible wrinkle from her silk blouse. "I've been ensuring Ryan eventually finds a more suitable partner. The Campbell name has continued unbroken for 9 generations. I won't let it end because he was temporarily infatuated with a self-made businesswoman who prioritizes her company over family. Does Ryan know?" I asked, dreading the answer. Something flickered in Eleanor's eyes, a calculation being made. "Of course not. He adores you, though God knows why. He'd never understand what I've done to protect our family legacy." She was lying. I could sense it, but couldn't prove it. Not yet. "I'm going to tell him everything," I said, standing to leave. "I have the video, the lab analysis, and medical documentation of what your fertility tea has done to my body." "He won't believe you," Eleanor said with calm certainty. "You've been acting increasingly paranoid and unstable for months. I've made sure Ryan and everyone else has noticed. Who do you think will sound more reasonable? Me, his loving mother who only wants the best for him, or you, his sickly, stressed wife making wild accusations?" The calculated nature of her psychological warfare stunned me. She hadn't just been poisoning my body. She had been systematically undermining my credibility and isolating me from potential allies. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because it doesn't matter if you know," she replied with chilling confidence. "It's too late. The damage is done, to your body and to your credibility. Even if Ryan believed you, what would change? You still can't give him children, and soon you won't even have your precious company to console you." A cold weight settled in my stomach. "What do you mean?" Eleanor smiled, the expression never reaching her eyes. "Pure Glow is having problems, isn't it? Quality issues. Unhappy customers, financial irregularities. Such a shame when a promising young company falters under poor leadership." She was responsible for the recent issues at Pure Glow too. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I left Eleanor's penthouse in a daze, the full scope of her betrayal still unfolding in my mind. That evening, I showed Ryan the video of his mother tampering with my tea and explained what the lab had found. His reaction was not what I expected. "You set up a hidden camera to spy on my mother," he demanded, focusing on the surveillance rather than the poisoning. "Ryan, did you hear what I said? She's been systematically poisoning me to prevent me from getting pregnant." "That can't be right," he insisted, though he couldn't quite meet my eyes. "There must be some explanation." "She admitted it to my face," I said, incredulous at his response. "I have it on video. I have the lab analysis." "What more proof do you need?" Ryan paced our living room, running his hands through his hair in agitation. "This is a family matter, Amaya. We need to handle it privately. Creating drama won't solve anything. Drama, your mother has been poisoning me for a year. I need medical treatment. And I need to know, are you involved in this?" "Of course not," he snapped, but too quickly, too forcefully. "How could you even ask me that?" "Because you don't seem particularly surprised or outraged that your mother has been deliberately making me infertile," I replied, watching him carefully, "almost like you already knew." "I didn't know," he insisted. "But Mom, she's always been protective of the family legacy. She wouldn't mean to hurt you. She probably thought she was helping somehow. His defense of the indefensible told me everything I needed to know. Ryan might not have actively participated in the poisoning, but on some level he had suspected, and chosen to ignore his suspicions. I need to lie down, I said, suddenly exhausted beyond words. We'll talk about this tomorrow. But when I went upstairs to our bedroom, I didn't lie down. Instead, I opened Ryan's laptop, which he'd left on the dresser. His email was open, and what I found confirmed my worst fears. There in his inbox were dozens of exchanges with Eleanor, dating back months. Emails discussing my deteriorating health, speculating on how long I could continue leading Pure Glow. Emails strategizing about changes to the company structure, when Amaya is no longer in the picture. Emails from just 3 days ago, where Ryan told his mother, Amaya's board meeting next week might be a good opportunity to suggest a temporary leadership change. Dr. Wilson is concerned about her liver function and mentioned potential hospitalization. Kesum, my husband and mother-in-law hadn't just been poisoning me. They'd been actively planning to take control of my company while I fought the health effects of their treachery. I took photos of the most damning emails, my hands shaking, with a combination of rage and disbelief. Then, moving with a quiet determination that surprised even me, I packed an overnight bag called Jade and slipped out of the house while Ryan was still downstairs. The game had changed. This wasn't just about saving my marriage anymore, it was about saving my life and the company I had built from nothing. And I was done playing by Eleanor Campbell's rules. The next morning, I woke up in Jade's hotel room with stabbing pain in my abdomen and a fever of 102. Jade called an ambulance despite my protests, and within hours I was admitted to Northwestern Memorial Hospital with acute liver inflammation and suspected organ damage. You have significant toxin buildup in your system, doctor. Wilson explained, reviewing my test results with a grave expression. The good news is that we've caught it before permanent liver damage occurred. The bad news is that we're seeing evidence of significant reproductive inflammation that may have longer-term consequences. Will I be able to have children? I asked the question, catching in my throat. It's too early to say definitively, she replied carefully. But I want to be honest with you. The damage to your reproductive system is extensive. Natural conception may be difficult, if not impossible. The knowledge that Eleanor had likely succeeded in her goal, making me permanently unable to give Ryan children, hit me with physical force. I curled into myself as silent tears streamed down my face. Jade held my hand, her own eyes wet with sympathetic tears. We'll be keeping you for at least a week, Dr. Wilson continued gently. Your body needs time to clear the toxins, and we need to monitor your liver function closely. Ryan arrived at the hospital that evening, his expression a mixture of concern and wariness. Why didn't you tell me you were coming here? I've been worried sick. Have you? I asked flatly. Or were you just concerned about the timing of your plans with Eleanor? His face paled. What are you talking about? I saw the emails, Ryan. All of them. You and Eleanor planning to take control of Pure Glow while I'm incapacitated. Discussing how my health issues make me unfit to lead. That's not... You're misinterpreting things, he stammered. Mom and I were just concerned about you working too hard while you're sick. Don't lie to me, I said, too exhausted for anger. Not anymore. How long have you known what she was putting in the tea? He looked away, unable to meet my eyes, and in his silence I had my answer. Get out, I whispered. Just get out. After he left, I asked Jade to bring my laptop and phone from the house when Ryan wasn't there. I had a company to protect, and not much time before Eleanor and Ryan made their move. From my hospital bed, I called Michael, my loyal assistant at Pure Glow, who had been growing increasingly concerned about Eleanor's influence. I need your help, I told him, and I need absolute discretion. Michael arrived at the hospital within the hour, his normally cheerful face solemn as he took in my condition. What do you need me to do? He asked without hesitation. I need you to be my eyes and ears at Pure Glow while I'm here, I explained. Eleanor and Ryan are planning something possibly at the board meeting next week. I need documentation of everything. Any changes to contracts, financial transfers meetings I haven't authorized. Michael nodded, his jaw set with determination. Consider it done. I've been keeping notes about some concerning patterns already. Eleanor has been meeting with board members individually, and there are rumors about a leadership restructuring proposal. Have there been any actual problems with the company? I asked, thinking of Eleanor's smug assertion that Pure Glow was having issues. Michael hesitated. Well, yes, actually. The last 2 batches of the rose serum had quality issues. much higher return rates than normal, and there have been some concerning reviews online about skin reactions to the night cream. That's impossible, I said. Those formulations haven't changed in years. That's what I thought. But when I checked the production records, there were small adjustments made to both formulas. The changes were authorized by you, apparently, but the signature looks off. Eleanor had been tampering with my products. The realization sent a surge of anger through me, so potent it temporarily overwhelmed the physical pain. I need copies of all those records, I said. And I need you to quietly alert our head of product development to review all recent formula changes. Over the next 3 days, Michael smuggled documents to me showing the full extent of Eleanor and Ryan's machinations. Eleanor had indeed been meeting privately with board members, suggesting that my health issues were affecting my judgment. Ryan had signed several documents as my authorized representative without my knowledge, including a new bylaw proposal that would allow the board to appoint a temporary CEO in the event of the current CEO's incapacity. Most disturbingly, I discovered that Eleanor had been systematically sabotaging product formulations, making subtle changes that wouldn't be immediately noticeable but would cause quality issues over time. She had also been leaking negative stories to beauty industry blogs, suggesting Pure Glow was facing financial difficulties. The emergency board meeting is scheduled for Friday. Michael informed me on the 4th day of my hospitalization. Eleanor has prepared a comprehensive presentation on the company's recent challenges and the need for new leadership during your recovery. I was still too ill to leave the hospital, but I refused to let Eleanor and Ryan steal the company I had built from nothing. It was time to call in reinforcements. I contacted Sophia Chen, my college roommate, who had become a successful corporate attorney. After hearing my story and reviewing the evidence Michael had gathered, she was horrified. "This is criminal Amaya," she said firmly. "Poisoning, fraud, corporate espionage. Eleanor could face serious charges. Ryan too is an accomplice." "I'll deal with the legal implications later," I replied. "Right now, I need to stop them from taking control of Pure Glow at that board meeting." Together with Sophia, I developed a strategy. While I couldn't attend the meeting in person, I could participate virtually. But first, I needed to secure allies on the board. I spent the next 24 hours making careful phone calls to board members I trusted, sharing selected pieces of evidence, and explaining the situation. Most were shocked and expressed immediate support, though a few seemed hesitant, suggesting Eleanor's influence had already taken root. The day before the board meeting, Michael made a discovery that changed everything. While reviewing Eleanor's office at Pure Glow, a space I had never authorized, but she had claimed anyway, he found a notebook hidden in her desk drawer. Inside were detailed notes on her plan to sabotage both my health and my company. She actually wrote it all down. Michael said, his voice shaking as he showed me photos of the pages. Recipes for the fertility tea with notes on increasing certain ingredients. Lists of product formulations to alter. Even a timeline for when she expected you to be hospitalized and how to use that to orchestrate the takeover. The coldly calculating nature of Eleanor's plan chilled me to the bone, but it also provided the irrefutable evidence I needed. That night, as I prepared for the board meeting with Sophia, I received an unexpected visitor. Victoria Lee, Ryan's ex-girlfriend, whom Eleanor had mentioned so frequently, appeared at my hospital room door. "I hope you don't mind," she said hesitantly. "Michael contacted me. He thought I might have information that could help you." Victoria's story stunned me. 5 years earlier, she had been engaged to Ryan when she began experiencing mysterious health problems: fatigue, reproductive issues, unexplained inflammation. Eleanor had prepared special teas for her too, insisting they were ancient family remedies. When Victoria had grown suspicious and confronted Eleanor, Ryan had sided with his mother. Their engagement ended shortly after. "I never had proof of what she did to me," Victoria explained. "But when Michael described your symptoms, it was like hearing my own story. I knew I had to come forward." She also revealed something I hadn't known. Before marrying Ryan's father, Eleanor had allegedly done something similar to his father's first fiancée, who mysteriously developed health problems and was subsequently deemed unsuitable for the Campbell family. "It's a pattern," Victoria concluded. She eliminates anyone she considers unworthy of the Campbell name, anyone who might threaten her control over Ryan or the family legacy. With Victoria's testimony added to our growing arsenal of evidence, I felt ready to confront Eleanor and Ryan at the board meeting. As Sophia reminded me, this wasn't just about saving my company anymore. It was about exposing dangerous behavior that had harmed multiple women and could harm others if left unchecked. The morning of the board meeting arrived. Although still weak from my ongoing treatment, I was determined to face Eleanor and Ryan directly, even if only through a video call. Sophia sat beside my hospital bed, her professional demeanour giving me strength, while Michael positioned himself in the boardroom, ready to execute our plan. As the meeting began, Eleanor stood at the head of the table, my rightful place, and began her carefully crafted presentation. As you all know, Amaya has been experiencing serious health issues. She began, her voice dripping with manufactured concern. While we all hope for her full recovery, we must consider the well-being of Pure Glow during this difficult time. I've prepared an analysis of the company's recent challenges and a proposal for temporary leadership restructuring. That was Michael's cue. He connected the video call, and suddenly my face appeared on the large screen at the end of the boardroom. I believe those are my challenges to address, Eleanor, I said, clearly watching her composed facade falter momentarily. As the founder and CEO of Pure Glow, I'm still very much involved in the company's operations. Eleanor recovered quickly. Amaya dear, what a surprise. We didn't expect you to join given your condition. We're simply having a preliminary discussion about support during your recovery. Let's be honest about what this meeting is really about. I replied, my voice stronger than I'd expected. This is an attempted corporate takeover, and it's time the board knew exactly what's been happening. Over the next hour, I presented the evidence we had gathered, the tampered product formulations, the forged signatures, the planted negative press, and most damning of all, Eleanor's notebook detailing her plan to sabotage both my health and my company. And now, I said, looking directly at Eleanor through the camera, I'd like to address the most serious issue. For nearly a year, Eleanor Campbell has been systematically poisoning me with a toxic blend of herbs specifically chosen to cause reproductive inflammation and liver damage. I shared the lab analysis of the tea, the medical documentation of my condition, and the video of Eleanor adding unmarked substances to my tea. The boardroom fell silent as the evidence mounted. This is absurd, Eleanor finally sputtered. Amaya is clearly unwell and paranoid. These accusations are the product of a stressed mind and illness. Ryan, who had been uncharacteristically quiet during the presentation, finally spoke. Amaya, this has gone far enough. You're embarrassing yourself and hurting the family. We should discuss this privately. There will be no more privacy, Ryan, I replied firmly. No more secrets. No more gaslighting. The truth comes out today. That's when Victoria entered the boardroom, causing Ryan to physically recoil in shock. Hello, Ryan, she said calmly. It's been a while. As Victoria shared her story with the board, Eleanor's carefully constructed facade began to crack. When Victoria detailed the identical symptoms she had experienced 5 years earlier, while drinking Eleanor's special teas, several board members gasped audibly. This is preposterous! Eleanor snapped her polished veneer, giving way to naked anger. Victoria was never right for the Campbell family. She was weak, unworthy of carrying on our legacy. Just like Amaya, with her obsession with that ridiculous company, instead of focusing on giving Ryan children. The Campbell name has survived for 9 generations. I wasn't about to let it end because my son married women who prioritized their own ambitions over their duty to the family. The boardroom fell silent at her outburst. In her rage, Eleanor had essentially confirmed everything I'd accused her of. Mum, Ryan said quietly, looking shocked. What have you done? But it was too late for his performance of ignorance. I shared the emails between Ryan and his mother demonstrating his knowledge and complicity in at least parts of the plan. Security will escort both of you from the building, I instructed. And I expect your resignations from any involvement with Pure Glow on my desk by tomorrow morning. As Eleanor and Ryan were led from the boardroom, the stunned board members turned back to my video feed. I apologize for this extraordinary situation, I told them. I know it's a lot to process, but I want to assure you that despite Eleanor's sabotage attempts, Pure Glow's foundations remain strong. I've already identified the compromised product formulations and initiated corrective actions. Within a month, we'll be back to the quality our customers expect. The board voted unanimously to remove both Eleanor and Ryan from any association with Pure Glow and to issue a statement of complete support for my continued leadership. As the meeting concluded, one board member asked the question that had been hanging unspoken in the air. Amaya, will you be pressing criminal charges? I looked at Sophia, who nodded encouragingly. Yes, I said firmly. Not just for myself, but for Victoria and for any other women who might have been harmed by Eleanor's actions. This pattern of behaviour needs to be stopped permanently and publicly to ensure it never happens again. The decision to make the story public wasn't an easy one. I knew it would subject me to scrutiny and possibly skepticism, but keeping Eleanor's actions secret would only protect her and allow the possibility of future victims. The truth, painful as it was, needed to come to light. As security led a still protesting Eleanor from the building, I heard her final threat. "You've ruined this family. Ryan will never forgive you for this public humiliation." But looking at Ryan's face, the husband I had loved and trusted, I realized I no longer cared about his forgiveness. What I needed now was justice, healing, and the freedom to rebuild the life that Eleanor Campbell had tried so methodically to destroy. The 6 months following the board meeting were among the most challenging of my life. While continuing treatment for the damage Eleanor's poisoning had caused, I simultaneously managed Pure Glow's recovery, endured a contentious divorce, and cooperated with prosecutors building a criminal case against my former mother-in-law and husband. My medical treatment was extensive and often painful. Dr. Wilson developed a protocol to help my liver eliminate the accumulated toxins, but the process took time. The reproductive damage, as she had gently warned, appeared to be more permanent. "The scarring to your fallopian tubes is significant," she explained during a follow-up appointment. "Natural conception would be extremely difficult, if not impossible, but," she added, seeing my expression, "there are other pathways to motherhood if that's what you want. IVF with harvested eggs might still be possible, and of course adoption or surrogacy remain options." The grief of losing my ability to conceive naturally felt overwhelming at times. Not because I still wanted children with Ryan, but because the choice had been violently taken from me by someone who had decided I was unworthy of continuing her family's bloodline. Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings turned ugly as I had expected. Ryan hired an aggressive attorney who attempted to paint me as mentally unstable, claiming I had fabricated the poisoning allegations to gain leverage in our separation. "Mr. Campbell is deeply concerned about his wife's mental state," his lawyer argued in court. "These wild accusations against his mother are symptomatic of paranoid delusions exacerbated by business stress." Fortunately, the medical evidence and Eleanor's own documented plans made such claims difficult to maintain. When the judge ordered a full examination of the evidence, including Eleanor's notebook and the analysed T samples, Ryan's strategy collapsed. The divorce was finalised with a clean division of assets and a restraining order, preventing both Ryan and Eleanor from contacting me. The criminal case progressed more slowly. Eleanor hired a team of high-powered defence attorneys who employed every possible delay tactic. Ryan, seeking to minimise his own culpability, eventually agreed to testify against his mother in exchange for reduced charges. His betrayal of Eleanor, after years of unwavering loyalty, seemed to break something in her. She aged visibly during the pre-trial hearings, her perfectly maintained appearance giving way to a haggard, bitter countenance. I was not in the courtroom the day Eleanor finally accepted a plea deal, admitting to charges of assault and attempted corporate fraud in exchange for avoiding a public trial. The 5-year prison sentence she received felt simultaneously inadequate for the harm she had caused and strangely hollow as a resolution. No punishment could restore what I had lost: my health, my fertility, years of my life, and the trust I had once placed so freely in others. Ryan received probation for his lesser role, along with community service and a significant fine. The last I heard, he had moved to the West Coast to make a fresh start. I sometimes wondered if he had found a woman who met his mother's exacting standards for the Campbell family line, but mostly I focused on rebuilding my own life. Pure Glow required intensive rehabilitation after Eleanor's sabotage. We recalled affected products, restored original formulations, and launched a transparency campaign to rebuild customer trust. I was honest about the corporate challenges we had faced without detailing the personal aspects of what had happened. Pure Glow experienced a period of unauthorized formula changes that affected product quality. I explained in a video message to our customers. As founder and CEO, I take full responsibility for these issues. We have identified and corrected the problems, strengthened our quality control processes, and are committed to rebuilding your trust. The beauty community responded with surprising support. Our loyal customers returned, sales gradually recovered, and 6 months after Eleanor's removal, Pure Glow was once again on solid financial footing. Throughout this period, I found unexpected strength in connections with other women. Victoria and I developed a friendship born from our shared trauma. Jade stayed in Chicago for months longer than planned, helping me recover. Sophia handled my legal affairs with fierce dedication. And Michael proved himself invaluable, both professionally and personally. His unwavering loyalty, a reminder that genuine support did exist. Slowly, I began to heal. Not just physically, but emotionally. Therapy helped me process the betrayal and violation I had experienced. I learned to trust my instincts again, to recognize the warning signs I had ignored with Ryan and Eleanor, to set boundaries that protected my well-being. 1 year after discovering Eleanor's poisoning, I made a decision that changed the direction of my life. After much consideration and counseling, I began the process of adopting as a single mother. "Are you sure you're ready?" Jade asked when I shared my decision. "It's a huge commitment, especially while you're still running Pure Glow." "I've never been more sure of anything," I replied. "Eleanor tried to take motherhood away from me. She doesn't get to win." The adoption process was lengthy and at times discouraging, but 18 months after beginning my application, I welcomed 4-year-old Lily into my home and heart. Born to a mother struggling with addiction, Lily had spent her young life in foster care. Her cautious eyes and defensive posture reminded me of myself in those early days after discovering Eleanor's betrayal, weary, wounded, but resilient. Building trust with Lily took time and patience. We moved forward together day by day, her learning that this home was permanent, that my love was unconditional, me learning how to be the mother I had never had the chance to become naturally. As Lily began to thrive, so did Pure Glow. I launched a foundation supporting victims of family abuse and medical sabotage funding research, and providing resources for women like me and Victoria. We developed a new product line specifically formulated for sensitive skin, with a portion of proceeds supporting adoption services for children like Lily. 3 years after Eleanor's crimes came to light, I received an unexpected letter. The return address was a federal correctional facility in Minnesota. "Dear Amaya, you may be surprised to receive this letter. I am writing not to ask forgiveness, which I know is beyond reasonable expectation, but to acknowledge the harm I caused you. Prison provides ample time for reflection. My therapist here has helped me recognize the toxic patterns that governed my behavior. My obsession with the Campbell legacy, my inability to relinquish control of my son's life, and my willingness to harm others, to maintain what I perceived as proper family order. None of this excuses what I did to you. I poisoned you systematically, with full knowledge of the likely consequences. I attempted to steal the company you built through your own talent and determination. I tried to destroy your credibility and your health. I was wrong, deeply, unforgivably wrong. I understand from news reports that you have adopted a child. I hope this brings you joy. I hope you create a family built on the respect and boundaries I never understood. I hope your daughter grows up knowing her worth isn't tied to her fertility or her conformity to someone else's expectations. I do not expect or deserve a response to this letter. I simply wanted you to know that your strength, the very quality I once viewed as a threat, has forced me to confront the hollowness of my values and the devastation they caused. Eleanor Campbell. I read the letter several times, searching for manipulation or hidden agendas. Finding none, I placed it in a drawer without responding. Eleanor's acknowledgement changed nothing about what had happened, but it represented a small closing of a painful chapter. My focus remained firmly on the future, on Lily's upcoming first day of kindergarten, on Pure Glow's international expansion, on the Foundation's growing impact, and on my own continuing journey toward complete healing. 2 years after receiving Eleanor's letter, I met Daniel at a business conference, a widowed father of 2 who looked at me with honest admiration and respect. Our relationship developed slowly, built on mutual transparency and carefully established trust. When he and his children eventually moved into our home, Lily gained the siblings she had been longing for, and I found a partner who valued my strength rather than feeling threatened by it. The path to this new life had been unimaginably difficult. The scars, both physical and emotional, would always remain. But as I watched Lily playing with her new siblings in the backyard of our home, I realized that Eleanor had ultimately failed in her mission. She had tried to prevent me from having a family, from finding joy, from maintaining my independence and success. Instead, she had inadvertently forced me to discover depths of resilience I never knew I possessed. The family I created was stronger for being chosen rather than determined by biology. The company I rebuilt was more secure for having weathered a calculated attack. And the woman I had become, more cautious, yes, but also more authentic and unapologetically powerful, was someone Eleanor Campbell could never have imagined when she first offered me that poisoned cup of tea. Sometimes the people who try to destroy us become the unwitting architects of our greatest strength. In her obsession with continuing the Campbell bloodline, through carefully selected women, Eleanor never understood that true legacy isn't about genetics. It's about the impact we have, the the love we create, and the courage we show in our darkest moments. That's the legacy I'm building now. Not for a family name that will fade with time, but for a daughter who will grow up knowing her worth is intrinsic and immutable. For a company that values integrity above appearance. For other women who might find themselves isolated and gaslit by those who should protect them. Have you ever had to rebuild your life after betrayal by someone you trusted? Share your story in the comments below. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in our struggles can be the first step toward healing. Don't forget to subscribe to hear more stories of survival and resilience, and hit that like button if this journey resonated with you. Thank you for listening, for believing, and for being part of a community that understands that our greatest challenges often reveal our greatest strength.